This is day number 167 of the Arukh HaShulchan OC. Today we are doing, I believe, Simukuf Chavav. Yes. If you would like to sponsor upcoming share or more of the Arukh HaShulchan OC, it would be greatly appreciated. Please contact me directly. So, Simukuf Chavav, Din Shatz Shatah, Sh'Tibur made a mistake. Sh'Tibur Shatah B'achas Mea Brachos. Sh'Tibur made a mistake on the Brachos Sh'Dilga B'Shkaga. He skipped it by accident, or Me'abilus, or by haste. Also, and when you remind him of this, you tell him, let him know about this, he knows to go back to its place. You don't remove him even from this tefillah. You left out 2 or 3 brachos. I mean, there's brachos of malshinim. If you left out the bracha of that, bracha misalkin also miyami, remove him immediately from the middle of this tefillah. But we're afraid that maybe he has become heretical. Even though this is just purely a hint of a suspicion, we don't move him permanently from the Yeshiva Tzibur. Also, in this field, we don't remind him to go back. Rather, it goes down from the Amud, somebody else goes up. Unless he remembers on his own and says it. And if he started Lamashim and he made a mistake, he stumbled and made a mistake, Maskirasa, then we do remind him. Because he started it properly, it's clear it's not heretical. He's not heretical. If not, move him from this tefillah, came they will have to say Bekach, since nothing will be lost by doing that, since he can come up anytime in the future. But even though it's embarrassing, you should be careful. That's only but somebody who made a mistake, who did inadvertently or made a mistake. If he deliberately left out a bracha, no matter which one, remove him, and he may never be a shliach tzibur. You have no greater heresy than that. Until he does complete tshuva. By Malshinim B'Tor Lomar Sofa Bracha below Tchilasa. If you start from the end of the bracha, Gamke Maskir, so we do remind him because obviously he does hold it in general. He says Mogen Avram, according to Mogen Avram, it sounds like some people in the Malshinim had the Girsa, the like Kofrim. Okay, the Bir Halacha writes that if you skip one the Malshinim, the Kula here, if you skip only the Malshinim, we have to take it down. We skip Malshinim and the one before, the one after, right? So we either Hashiva Shaltein or Al Tzadikim. Then it's clear that it was inadvertent because that's the one before after, and then you don't have to remove it. Base. The die, you should know, the Yerushalmi Perek Aim the Omdim. Omer, it says, Ochnei brachos do damos b'dima l'malshinim. The 2 other brachos which have the same status as malshinim. Brachos Mechayim Mesim, the second bracha, Mishum Mechashin Hashem Mekover Tchias Mesim, because maybe he denies the principle of the resurrection of the dead. Or Bonei Yerushalayim, Shemen Amayim because Mashiach, perhaps doesn't believe in the coming of the Mashiach. But Shas alone is cars that our Shas does not mention these. The Torah V's and Yerushalmi, the Torah does bring Yerushalmi. Torah Rabbeinu, Tamar Rabbeinu, but it says Sibra God Lama Hivya came to Neged Shas. It says if it's tarnished that he brings it, it's against the Bavli. Neos like dinner, but the Vadai in Bono Lachshosh. It says the Arukh. To me, it seems clear that if we came to have a suspicion, Shita Sheyesh Gam Be'elucha Shoshos, these are also subject to suspicion. And the distinctions the Mefarshim make between the brachas, the chukim, they are difficult. If you look at them, you will see that. So the 2 orals, our Shas does not argue on this point, but these are on these 2 brachas. But these are rak brachas too. That which Shas only mentioned on Mashiach. It's not a specific statement of halacha there. Rather, it is a story. Tells the story of Shmuel Katan, who was the author of the bracha, once forgot it. But said Arukh HaShulchan, now the Shas asked, Lama lo helu, why did they not take him up out of the Amud? Ayin Sham. Vela brachos amarishim. It's not talking about the other brachos. Avabada adina ein chiluk. In terms of halacha, there's no distinction. Milian tchias nemesim lavachi asi shapir. Nevertheless, in terms of Tchilas HaMesim, it works out well anyway. The Mechayim Mesim Barachamim Rabim Eino B'Tchilas HaBracha. The Mechayim Mesim Barachamim Rabim is later on in the bracha. He came in Manavshal. So no matter what, Im Pasal Batogi Bor, then Alo Gam Mashim and Sakim was just by. Then there's no words on Mashim. But if he starts the bracha off, he's okay, even if he makes a mistake later on. Below Pasal Batogi Bor, if you didn't start with a Togi Bor, Alo Ein Ze Shaykh L'Tchilas HaMesim. Then it's a problem which is not relevant to Tchilas HaMesim, but rather to Gvuras Kushamim. By Yushalmi, perhaps Yushalmi is not holding the distinction between whether you bring out or not. The Kabit as so bracha dafka. In fact, in Yushalmi, it seems that there's specifically an issue with the end of the bracha. In Ayin Sham. You came in Melos feel like a Shas, so therefore it's not like our Shas. Perhaps the Torah holds that our Shas by the beginning of the bracha. And then that respect for Malshinim is different than the other ones. The Mechalka Chaim and Yerushalayim Yercha. An interruption there, so let's figure out from where we're up to. And this is the difference between the bracha of Malshinim and the other brachas of Mechayim Mesim and Yerushalayim Yercha. That where the difference is B'Tchilas, problem with Tchilas bracha was about Malshinim, and the problem is the Sop bracha with the the other two. Zechel B'Rozim Yerushalayim, the Yerushalayim might have a Sop bracha. Sham is about the end of the bracha. Zekulam Shavim, and in that case, everybody would agree. Gam Shasti don't know there was there. Shasti also agree with that, but it's not talking about that. It's just there, and one has to consider all this carefully. Mishabura says that if even if he was given the bracha Tchilas HaMesim and Bnei Yerushalayim, we don't remove them. We don't remove the chazan, and not like the Yerushalmi. Taz holds that if he left both them out, then and even if he started them but then didn't complete them, then we do remove him, and others argue on the Taz. Gimel. I'm astounded at the core of these matters. The Ein Shamim Ogeh Klal Divrei Shas Tilon. The Shamas I do with Arukh Shas. It says there, the whole Ein Machzir so for nothing. You don't make him go back on anything. Chutz Mishlo Amar Mechayim Mesim. Unless he didn't say Mechayim Mesim Umachni Azedim Ubnei Yerushalayim B'Chulei Ayin Sham. So it's mentioned Mechayim Mesim Machni Azedim B'Nei Yerushalayim. Lo Mari Klam Misilu Ko. But it says that about removing the chaz, and so about making him go back. It's saying if he went further, we don't make him go back to correct his mistake. Besides with these three brachas, nothing to do with our shas. Talk about when we're masalikim. But the Tur is the one who wrote over Yushalmi with the language of masalikim. This is astonishing because that's not Lashon Bar Yushalmi. Maybe he had that gear, so Milak upon him. Nevertheless, when Yushalmi said before, the Dilek Achas Me Brachos, it means that if you could skip one of the brachos, Eis Master Lord, you should tzibur, it's Lalon. At the time, the tzibur did not sense that and down further. And Machzir, so in Terach tzibur, you don't make him go back because of Tircha the tzibura. Because she came and Gomer to us, especially if he finishes davening. But I don't know, Kaimalon came, because she's part of Sif A, and we don't hold that way, as will be explained in Sif Hey. He brings down brackets, Masasi Kama Rashba, Yavi Girsa Zu Shela Fonenu, which means a Machzir. Finally, he says the Bach Shikosu the Gam Bezelo Kama Gushami, Shosh part of Siyat Ishmael. This we don't know the Gushami, even according to our Girsa of a Machzir, as we'll see in the halacha after this. Dalit. Shat Shetoy Michal Achas Bebrachos Mein Datim Misheves Lachzol Im Kamo. A Shleil Tzibur made him saying with the brothers, and he does not. It's going to discombobulate him. Go back to his place after Maskin or so. Even when we remind him of that, maybe also because of his either his haste or because of his confusion. And somebody else gonna have to take his place. A person really take his place. The milchazos shots without the customary polite initial rejection. Simon and Gimel. Make a mask. Where does where do you start? If the mistake was in the first three or last three, which are all one unit, you go back to the beginning of the unit. The we explained already that the first three are like one, and the last three are one unit, believe we would say. Either that's where you go back to the mistake is in one of the first three and the last three. I'm not even talking about say middle brachas, you go back to being a bracha where the mistake was made. The first guy made a mistake. We show mispal say from there daven in order. Amar is a brachas alone. Even if the person who made the mistake went further in Shemona Esrei. Hey, B'zel Lashon HaTorah B'Shulchan Aruch, Siv Gimel. The Torah Shulchan Aruch say the following in Siv Gimel. Any place where the Yachid goes back and daven over again, Shliach Tzibur Chos Mispalo, the place where the individual in his Shemona Esrei goes back, the Shliach Tzibur also goes back. In Targum also, where he made a similar mistake, Shemona go run davening out loud. Chutz Mishachar Rosh Chodesh, except for the Chakras of Rosh Chodesh. She'im shachach shliach tzibur, the shliach tzibur forgot b'leitzke yalav yavo. Achim shishlim tlivlaso, before he finished his davening. Ein machzirno so minei torchat tzibur. Don't make him go back because the torchat tzibur is right. Tfilas musafel lefanav shumas kibar rosh chodesh, because we rely on his mentioning it in musaf. Chaim Brisker is supposed to have said wanted to paskin lemaisa, although I don't think he actually did. So they're not actually, we don't pass that way, that even a Yachid forgot Shemona Yalav Yavo in Shachris does not have to go back if he davens a Musaf afterwards. It's brought down in Nefesh Harav. But that's a personal Shechter, then that's the Maisa, and he said no. And amen, but here for the Shil Tzibur, it suffices. But if you remember, before he finishes davening Chazor, it say, he goes back to it say, Ein B'zeh Torach Tzibur, that's not going to be too big a Tircha Tzibura, Ad Kan L'Shonah. Because Rabbeinu Ramah, the Yeshua Mindim Tov Shachris Shel Shabbos Yontiv Dinah Gmor Rosh Chodesh V'Chinog Kal Shana. Same thing by Shachris on Shabbos Yontiv. They say that Muslim you don't go back. It's interesting because in this case, if Shabbos Yontiv you daven a weekday Chazor Sashatz, I don't know how nobody noticed that was happening. But Zeh Gagei Time Mishum Shem Muslim is Kor Shel Shabbos. Okay, so explain it's the same thing. Going to mention Muslim Shabbos. That's because of it today time B'Chayik Rosh Chodesh Shabbos Yontiv. So right, there's no distinction between the three. Rosh Chodesh, Shabbos, Yontiv. Rabbeinu says in Sifra Godol, he wrote Chesed Batam the Shabbos Yontiv Leka Bita Malacha. Oh, so the Torah no, the Torah writes the other way around. Because of the Torah, the Ein Tam Chayv in Rosh Chodesh, the Shabbos Yontiv, and you have to go back. You have to repeat the Chazar Sashatz. It says Shabbos Yontiv Leka Bitul Malacha. The Beis Yosef says on Shabbos and Yontiv you go back. Shabbos Yontiv you would go back because there's no Bitul Malacha, because they're not going to make you late for work. There's no work. So they're not considered Tirchat Tzibura. That's considered Tirchat Tzibura on Shabbos. That explains all the chazonas which we have. And, the question, it's difficult. The Adram, it's usually Caleb Shabbos Yontiv. Yosef Tzibur Rosh Chodesh. Says the Arukh HaShulchan. It's difficult because on the contrary, we're more meko on Shabbos and Yontiv than Rosh Chodesh. Shem Nei Torah Lo Yiskinu Shizpalu Shmona Esrei Brachos Shabbos Yontiv. Because of the Tircha, we don't make you daven a full Shmona Esrei Shabbos Yontiv. Moshe Nechto B'Simin Samaches. But furthermore, Ma'ayin Torah Tzibur Mikol B'Lacha. Rosh Hashanah says Tirchat Tzibur is not because they have to go to work. Tirchat Tzibur is making the Tzibur feel pain, so to speak. Perhaps the reason is just like on weekdays we make you go back if you forgot Yalav Yavo. Don't rely on, well, if you, regular weekday, you make you go back if you made a mistake. We don't rely, you're going to say by the same tefillah by Mincha, they should have sake, because there's a great gap between Shabbos and Mincha. So to Shas Yontif, when they are long lanings, of Ra'olim Rubim, many people get Aliyahs, Yesh Ba Kam Maftir, Maftora, Vendorim, Tavas Karnog, there's Maftir, Maftora, and Mishaperachs. It's a big gap, Kamo Ben Shachris and Mincha. So that would mean by Shabbos and Yontif you would go back, because the Hefsek between Shachris and Musaf, maybe by Kriyas Torah, but Rosh Chodesh, the Kriyas Torah is short, you would not have to, Shil Tzibur would not have to go back, because of the Musaf he's going to daven imminently. Gimel. These don't correspond to Shalmi, which says you don't make a person go back. Okay. Api Bryce is so Bergdala Tov is in brackets. Api Bryce is so Bergdala Tov Lo Iske Tzibur Shono Kipeiru Shabahag Shevi Hurashi Sapir Sharif. This all go assuming that Tov Lo Isker. Imagine there goes on Shil Tzibur. Ve'ema Enam Gorsim B'Musafi Emachzin and Beis Yosef, and they don't have a gear so that if you say Muslim, you don't make him go back. Apirish Rashi the Yochi Kai, but Rashi says going an individual. That he doesn't because he can hear from Shil Tzibur. That's why the Yochi doesn't go back. Here's Kam Shita say Ushalmi. I'm going to see Ushalmi works Emachzin so because of the shots. Milach Kaiman Katuv Shulchan Aruch. Zoshitas Arif Ba'arosh, and that you go back any place where the Yochi goes back and asks daven again. The Shlir Tzibur goes back and davens again. The Shalmi notwithstanding. The Bir Alocha adds in here that on Chol Moed, where is this going on? Since Chol also, the Shir Tzibur forgot Yalav Yavo in Shachris, Musaf is imminent, he doesn't have to go back and repeat Shmona Esrei. The Chazos Shots. So the Alocha says also on Chol obviously according to Arukh HaShulchan's explanation, because Chol also has a short laning. Vav Kasaram Perak Din Beis Abol Im Tosh Shir Tzibur She's Baal B'Lachash. The Shir Tzibur made a mistake when he down his own personal tefillah. And he doesn't go back to daven another tefillah made Torah Tzibur because of Tzibur Tzibura. Also Mechal Tefillah Shispa B'Koram, he relies on the tefillah that he davens out loud. And this is as long as they make a mistake in the first three brachos. Shim Tov B'Hem, he made a mistake in them. L'olam Choser, K'mo Shayachid Choser. He goes back, and just like the individual goes back. Ad Kal L'Shono. Chenus L'Shel Fenenu. That's the version which we have. But according to this, what the difference between the first three brachas and the rest of the davening, Lashon Rambam doesn't seem to make sense. So Ayin Sham, which writes is when you marry before you finish davening, and this also doesn't make sense. The piece of Nizkar comes so about tefillah. According to this, remember before the end of davening, Chosar Rosh. You go back to the beginning. And even though he's going to have to go back and down over Shemona Esrei again, and there's no greater Torah Tzibur than this. They ain't sort of cloud. Okay, does it make sense that remembering before the end is going to make you go back again, and remembering at the end doesn't make you go back again? Last I think they're laughing. Talking about. So this is where the Arukh HaShulchan explanation of the Rambam. If he made a mistake and in his silent Shemona Esrei in the first three brachos, and he realizes the first three brachos, he remembers Shem Shatah, Chayzer Rosh, then he goes back to the beginning of his personal Shemona Esrei. Then got Torah Kol Kach, Shadayim Rosh Tefillah. It's not a big deal because he's still the beginning of his davening. And this Garchaka remembers afterwards the last situation, forge on ahead, and be relying on the Torah Shashatz. And the Torah in fact brings the Rambam in a version which works out. Because the Rambam also she's spelled b'koram chozom kmo ha-yochid. If he made a mistake in the his chazor shots, then like we saw previously, he goes back for whatever yochid goes back. He doesn't mention any difference between the first three and the rest of davening. So that's because of Chozal that was just said it goes back always. So the Bat Shachris Rosh Chodesh, of course, that excludes Shachris Rosh Chodesh, which because the Shomer Rambam Matzmo, which like we saw in the previous Sif. Neil's Dati Meisim, Tov shows Karachakach. If he made a mistake within the three first brachos of his own son Shmasrei, remembers after the Shosh Hashanah. Yesh's Mo Girsa Tur by Pirushin, Fi Girsa Shalonu. He should rely on our version of the Tur and our explanation. Ve'enech Chazei does not go back to the beginning of his own silent Shmonesrei. The Mishnah Berurah writes, if you remember before, he's much more conventional. It's the more conventional. The Rambam, not as Arukh HaShulchan explained it, right? So if you remember before let's say remembers before he davens, finishes his own personal davening, he goes back. He remembers after he completed his own personal davening, he doesn't go back. And the Torah argues, and it's Mekel, even the Shalosh Yishonos, even Shalosh Yishonos, so you don't go back. You never go back. You can always learn the Shalosh Yishonos. And so realize the Torah does not lose. It's Mishnah Berurah, very different than the Arukh HaShulchan. Zayin, B'dai, Shino, Sheyesh Misha Omer, the commotion is Mizbora, Shachris, Rosh Chodesh. Just like we just learned by Shachris, Rosh Chodesh, the Kshiach Tzibur, Lo Amar Yala B'Yovo, Yismach HaMusaf, we didn't say Yala B'Yovo can lie Musaf, L'chi Yachid Nami Yismach HaMusaf. So to an individual can lie Musaf. Oh, guess what? Here it is. But Nefesh Rav says, name Reb Chaim, it's Arukh HaShulchan. Wow. The Lo Gara Di'evet L'Yochid L'Chadchila L'Rabim. The di'evet of Yachid is no worse than the L'Chatchila for the Rabbin. I feel like she was probably Yechidus, even if it's an individual. The Ibn Tzibur Gam lifetime of the Musaf. If it's Tzibur without the reason of Musaf, he has a way out. Yachol Yishma Me'al Shliach Tzibur, Kosh Ksam Tzibur Kachol Dal, by listening to the Shliach Tzibur's Chazos Hashatz. Yesh Lismoch Al Zeh B'di'evet. What? Chidish. Kam Yamashi is barred the Shliach Tzibur Shetov and Nichlas Achra Tachtov. Also, when we say Shliach Tzibur makes a mistake, another person takes his place. Shemaskal is a bracha, begins with being a bracha. Yesh Shabbos Yontav b'Musaf. Shanuscha Aruka, and Shabbos Yontav when it's a long version. B'Torah u'mibnei Chatoenu, and the main mistake in the mibnei Chatoenu part. Ein shein tzorah zorach Torah b'Chartonu. You have to go back to the Torah b'Chartonu to the beginning. The ikar bracha hem karbanos tamusavi chasima. So the ikar of the bracha is anyway the karbanos and the chasima. And you saw in the middle of the chatenu and be'emtza tikanta Shabbos. And you can start the new fellow in the middle of tikanta Shabbos as well. The Shabur writes that on Yom Noraim, etc. The person who stands in front of, instead of the first class and made the mistake, has to start from Atzah B'Chartonu. But he doesn't say over the putim, which we don't say anyway, but nevertheless, but the avid, he starts in the place where the other person was removed or became paralyzed, he can. Because there's still the end of the slichas to say, Mechal Avonosenu, so therefore that's okay. I guess speaking about Yom Noraim specifically, and Arukh HaShulchan was speaking about Shabbos and Yom Tov, so taking on two different planes here. Okay. Tomorrow I finish the first chelak of the Arukh HaShulchan and Piskei Mishnah Berurah.